Hello, JP. How are you today?
Hey, what's going on? I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm happy to almost call an end to my trip. My month-long journey in Europe is coming to a close, and I'm ready to go home.
Good
How
for
about
you.
you?
I'm at that conference this week, so hanging out with Russ Fustino and talking to a lot of Web2 developers about Web3.
Amazing. For
Yeah,
those of you who don't know, Russ Festino is DevRel at Algorand,
Algorand.
and that conference is what, JP?
That conference is that is the name of the conference. That conference. It's a family-friendly conference that's focused on Web2. Brings in a lot of big names from around the world. About 1,000 people are here, so kind of an intimate affair. But yeah, it's just focused on the web. So Algorand is there, Reach is there, and just talking to everyone. I'll be talking to some of the business partners there as well today.
That's amazing. I've
Yeah.
also heard that the young children that attend the conference are the first world-class citizens at the conference, at the event. I'm sure that's quite exciting and really cool to sort of see this mix of age and just demographics. Are they doing any sort of technical workshops with the kids as well, or?
Tons of workshops there. Last night, so my son is here enjoying the water parks, and I brought him into the gaming area last night, and they had a robotics team from Minnesota who was there with these huge robots that play ball. So they collect balls and they throw the balls, and kids are having a great time. And it's just really a recruiting tool to get students at a young age started with like Lego Mindstorms, and then upgrade all the way up to where they're building these $5,000 or $10,000 robots that do different things.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Well, talking about amazing and exciting things, we have a special guest today by the name of Lina. She actually came with us to New York to hack at ETH New York. We've also sponsored other events that she's a part of with her DAO, and she can tell us a little bit more about that. So I'll welcome her on stage. Hi, Lina.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi. Thank you
Nina.
so much for inviting me here today. I'm very excited. And yeah, I am Lina. I'm a front-end and blockchain developer. And I am currently also a HerDAO governor. For everybody who doesn't know yet what HerDAO is, we are a DAO focused on female and non-binary developers and builders. And we bring our scholars to conferences and hackathons, and we also onboard a lot of Web2 devs to Web3 through making them participate in hackathons. And yes, now I started introducing myself, but I also want to say, hey, how are you today? So great to be here.
It's great to have you, Lena. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah. Should I also tell you how I fell in love with Reach?
Yeah, tell us about your journey.
Yeah, as you already mentioned, I was in Denver at the Reach sponsored the Hacker House, the HerDAO Hacker House in Denver, and I was one of the scholars. And it was, I think, even our last presentation that we had. And it was about Reach language. And I really, really loved the whole idea of creating a language that is more accessible to new developers that come from Web2, from front-end development, as I'm also a front-end developer and I learned JavaScript. And when you said that Reach language is so close to JavaScript, I think is super useful. And then I was also very I appreciated much the educational programs that you offered, where people can actually go through it, and if they finish it, they will get a reward. I think that's but also have to stake a small amount. I think that's also really incentivizes people to pull through. And also one other thing that I really, really liked in the presentation was that Jay talked about that a lot of young startups with new founders, they have problems getting auditing for their applications. And a problem that Solidity has is that it's not always super secure, especially like if it gets more complex. And then as a like startup, to get like an auditing and also be able to pay for it is super hard, because like they are overbooked and they are super expensive. So, and actually Reach language provides a solution for this, which I thought was amazing, because it's not only accessible in like how you can learn it, but also like how you can use it and how it will also impact young startups. So that was why I started being very, very interested in Reach. And so I was very excited when I got the scholarship to go with you to New York and learn about it, because in the last months I was very focused on bringing other women to hackathons and like learning how to organize them, but not so much learning how to like learn more, like code a lot. So I was super excited to like be with Reach developers and like get their mentorship and just like deep dive into Reach. So that was a really great experience. Yes.
That's awesome. And JP, for those who don't know, can you let the world know a little bit more about how Reach does create that additional level of support for security, so that developers who are building their MVPs with Reach can save thousands of dollars with their initial projects?
Yeah, just really briefly, Reach has a formal verification engine that's baked into the compiler. So every compile is formally verified. And if that verification process fails, then Reach does not finish the compile, right? And so every project must be mathematically proven to be honest, to be true for honest or dishonest participants and front ends, and also proves that there won't be tokens left in the contract when it closes, and that the contract won't overspend. And those are just like the basic assertions that are baked into the formal verification engine. It uses satisfiability module theories to ensure the truthfulness of every application. And so developers are able to create their own assertions or their own checks for dynamic assertions. And basically that means that an assertion is a static assertion, which is something that is always true throughout the entire life cycle of that decentralized app. And a dynamic assertion is something that is true within a scope within the application. So it might be true for part of the life cycle, but may not necessarily be true for the other part of the life cycle of the app. And this helps save developers time, gives a lot of peace of mind in actually deploying apps. And then in the process of auditing, right, which is a concept that we don't have in Web 2. In Web 3, there's a process of auditing because of the immutability of the blockchain. Auditing process can be very expensive with, say, like a Solidity dApp. Reach is easier to understand. It also prints the intermediate files. And so the auditing process is shorter and much less costlier. So I think the auditing process, we work with auditors and they're able to audit in like a week and for about a fifth of the cost of like a Solidity audit.
Awesome. That was a great explanation. I also saw Lena make a face when you started to talk about the compilation process. I remember during the hackathon, there was like we were getting to the last hour or so, and I think it was your team, Lena, that was trying to compile and deploy, but you were having some issues. I'd love to hear about like your experience of one, learning Reach right in time for the hackathon and building your application with Reach. And then if you had any comparisons to building something like that with Solidity.
Yeah, so I where do I start? So it was I have to say, when I was laughing, it was like when I compiled the smart contract, and because like we had one smart contract and then I wanted to change it for like, because we had two, our app, I'm just gonna explain it, maybe then it's also easier how to understand what we were building and how we used Reach language. So we were building an application that is to split expenses, an expense splitting app, and we also wanted to include like a splitting process for hackathon money, because our team, like, we travel a lot, so we have a lot of expenses that we share in the group, as well as winning money in a hackathon. So first we wrote the smart contract for the expense splitting, and we already had a Solidity contract that was kind of doing what we were looking to write with Reach, so it was good to have like a reference. And yeah, and then I tried to like write this for the hackathon because it worked. It was great. Like, it compiled. It said like, yeah, like everything works. And then I tried to do this with the hackathon, and I only changed like really a little bit, and it always just told me, if like there's like a bad actor, it will fail and it will get drained. And I think that was so interesting. And I think like when you compile like a Solidity smart contract, you only will get like, you can't use this variable here. You can, like, I don't know, so you forgot a semicolon. And here it's like you really have to like really in depth think about what you want to write. And I think that it's also very useful for like in general to develop the concept of your application. And so yeah, it was very frustrating because at 3 or 4 in the night, it's really hard to like be like, okay, because I'm being logical and now I just want to like something to be true. And but that was a very, very fun experience. And yeah, learning Reach, it was like I started reading the documentation. I think it is probably the funniest documentation I've ever read. I think it's written very poetic in some kind of way. I have to say, like, I send you a screenshot and it's like, this is so funny. Like, these chapters, like at one point, like they sound like book titles or like poem titles. And then suddenly it gets like very technical, and then it's just like one word. And no, it was very, very funny to read them. I think also it just like makes you understand it. And of course it's very complex, right? It's super mathematical. So like I think because Reach is not is a bit different with the concept of like the two participants. I think it makes a lot of sense if you also think about where blockchain comes from, that you just have like a ledger with like two, like just money being transferred from like one person to another one, and then just thinking about like having different participants in for like every application, and from there on writing the interactions is super useful concept. But I think also it was very new for me, so I really needed to adapt, because I think normally if I read like a program, I would rather I just think from my like the user perspective, or like of like one participant, like I have more like only one participant in mind, even though you always have different participants, I think. So I think it was very interesting to try to understand how this approach works, and also why it makes sense to use this kind of approach. And and then we met the team, and we started writing our smart contract. And at first we really tried to like do it exactly like in the Solidity smart contract, but that doesn't really work. And then we like try to open up our minds. And then at one point I was like, the more often I went through it and like looked at examples, because you have this like really good example library, I think that's very useful to like also like see different use cases and understand different components better. And and then it was a lot of fun in the end to like be able to write a smart contract. I think we were both like Gian and me, we were very proud that this worked out, and we were very happy for the great help we got. So yeah, that was amazing. I can always continue talking, but maybe you want to like put some, like ask me some questions in between.
That's awesome. I'm curious to know, like, what was your aha moment where it was like, oh, I have to think about the participants in those, and like as you're writing your Reach contract. rather than like thinking about like the steps that you usually go through when you're writing Solidity contracts?
I think I cannot really describe that. I just know like the moment, because I was watching everybody else do stuff and I was just like watching, trying to understand. But the moment I sat there and tried to like write it all by myself, it really clicked. And then I wrote down some stuff, and then afterwards it was also like, you cannot write, not all of this actually works, but just like trying out stuff and just like that was really helpful. And then also getting feedback on what I wrote, like if that works that way, and maybe not. I think just trying out and getting feedback, this is like the best way for me to learn. I like, for other people it's different, but for me, I really need like the experience of like actually writing something and then having a feedback loop. So that was very cool the moment I did that.
That's awesome. Yeah, just like finding that aha moment. Was it so for you? It was you could watch people do it, you could read the documentation, but you really needed to put your hand to the keyboards,
Yeah.
fingers to the keyboards, and type it out yourself.
Yes, and then it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No,
You took home a bunch of prizes as well, right? Your team came out.
Yes,
with,
yes. We had like 4 prizes. We had like 2 second prizes and 2 pool prizes. And yeah, so that was great. You also won some prizes, right? Congratulations on that. Yeah. And also like, thank you so much for helping us, even though like you were working on your project, but like you were always there, and it was great to have your support by our side.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience for everyone, just being able to get to know community members, and then watching you all learn Reach over the weekend while you're hacking. That was spectacular. It's like a gift of itself.
Yeah, and it was really cool because when we presented the project, we always told like, hey, we are here with Reach on a scholarship, and everybody was like so interested. And it was also very cool to be able to say like, hey, we wrote this smart contract in Reach, and then it also compiles down to Solidity smart contracts that you can read. And they were very interested in. And yeah, it was a cool flex actually to awesome. To say that. Yeah.
Amazing. But Stephanie, you had other things you wanted to talk about outside of the hackathon.
Yeah. So I want to get into a little bit more about Her DAO. How did you find Her DAO? Did they find you? What was your journey into the DAO?
So I like, my journey is just like a chain of connection. So connections are very important. I like 3 years ago I did a front-end developer bootcamp. I studied computer science, but university was not very like the great place for me to learn coding. So I did a bootcamp. One of the alumni of a later code camp sent a link to like learn about blockchain for women, like a program which is called DAT Talents. And in there, I interviewed many like community leader, like female community leader. Through that, I got a scholarship for a Solidity bootcamp that I did last September. And there I had study groups. Like we created study groups because we found it was very useful. We also had a lot of women who were new to development, so we always had like a mentor. Like in that case, it was like me helping and supporting my team members. And there I met Tracy, who is the founder of Her DAO, and she together with other people from our study group founded Her DAO in the beginning of the year. And she organized together with Harmony to bring 150 women to ETH Denver, and I got one of the scholarships, and I went there, and we did this amazing hacker house, which was fun, and where I learned about Reach. And yeah, being in this house, I just saw like whenever I went outside of the house, how like every woman I met, and I was like, "Hey, I'm Lena. Come to our house." And they were like, "Oh, I was wondering where all the women are." um, and so it was really cool to like create also a safe space for women at a conference that is like so huge and so male dominated, and yeah, just create a space where women can also start networking with each other. And from there on, I took over the role as hackathon and scholarship lead, and I traveled with her there to Barcelona and to Amsterdam and to Miami and New York, and now also again Barcelona and Paris. And yeah, we just like try to create space for for women and non-binary people, for them to like feel empowered to participate in hackathons, to be like feel comfortable at conferences, that they will like have a peer group that they can rely on and are not like the only person and like shy. And because in my experience, you can experience something so much better if you have like people that you know, if you feel safe, you can network better and just like yeah, profit so much more from a conference. And yeah, also it's like a very great success story. I think hackathons in general are an amazing way of onboarding developers from Web 2 to Web 3, because or in general people to Web 3, because in one weekend you have to learn how to build a Web3 app. That means you have to also consider tokenomics, you have to consider community. Even though this is nothing you have to build out, you have to think about what makes a product valuable. And also you learn how to sell something, you learn to use this technology very quickly. You can have direct feedback from the people, from the technology that you're using. You can get direct mentorship, and also it empowers our scholars incredibly. Like we have a lot of we had now over 200 scholars, almost 250, more than like almost 50 projects. We have won almost, last time I counted, that was before Paris, it was like 150K in like winnings that I got in hackathons. But like the most important thing is like almost like 1/3 of the projects are continuing, and women who, like, I think a lot of women who never knew what a hackathon was even before, now suddenly are thinking about becoming a founder. And I think way earlier than they would have reached that stage, and like without that experience. And this is also what we're getting as feedback. So yeah, I love hackathons.
I love that so much. That was a great answer. Honestly, if it wasn't for you, I would have never had like the guts to enter a hackathon on my own. So you're the one who encouraged me to join the hackathon, even at ETH New York. I thought I was just going to be there to facilitate, make sure everything was going well, but ended up somehow getting involved in JP's team along with Keegan, David, and Algo D Monitor, Bobby. And then even when I was hanging out with you in Barcelona, had an amazing other experience hacking,
You
creating
did
a
an
group on the
amazing job.
spot. That was really fun. I like had never met these people before, but Lena was like, "You should work with Anya. Anya's a really good front end dev." And then I was like, "Hi, Anya. Do you want to work together?" And so she's like, "Sure, I guess we can figure it out." And I was like, "Great, let's do it." And then made friends with a Solidity developer, and he was like, "Sure, I'll join your team." And then I actually worked with Raf, who is on our team. He worked with us remotely. By our team, I meant the Reach team. So he works with Reach. He knows the Reach language. So I was like, this could be really fun and easy for us to like come together and create this awesome project. So we did, and we took home 2 prizes, which is also pretty exciting. So thank you, Lena, for creating this sort of path for not just myself but so many other women in the space to come in and feel like they can add value to hackathons, because I am not a developer by trade. I'm much more of like a someone who, what I've called myself now, community engineer, is I bring people together and I know how people work together in certain spaces and things of that nature. Um, but it's good to know, I think, as well for others. It's like you don't have to be technical to enter a hackathon. It's really important to realize that even for companies, it doesn't just require the technical side of things. It requires marketing. It requires someone to sell the product. Otherwise, it's not going to work because no one's going to know it's there. So I think that was really awesome as well. I want to give a little shout out to Johanna Moran. Johanna runs the developer ecosystems at Algorand, and she basically makes it so that developers can build and they can get funding in order to build cool applications and then deploy to Algorand. So she is a badass, and I'm so grateful to have been able to work with her this last year. But she recently, in one of our breakfast clubs chat, she said something that really resonated with me. And it's this concept of women being the interoperability layer of Web3. And then there were other things in the chat that were like, well, not just Web3, really everything, maybe. And I feel like, Lena, you talk about that a lot in some ways with like what her DAO is doing, creating these safe spaces. I wonder if you want to elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I think we like bringing women into this space. I think this is also why we get so many partnerships right now, and people really want to like invest in us, is because they realize blockchain already evolved technically very far, but like it's not very scalable if you don't have the right like the community for that, right? So you can only so I think for some time now it has been like a lot of technology has been built on technology, but we don't have enough use cases, which also like is a problem for many blockchains, like that they don't have enough products being developed on them to like create a real ecosystem that can reach the mainstream and like be so like bring blockchain into the mainstream. And with bringing our hackers to these hackathons, I mean, this is developers, but most female developers we bring in, they did not learn computer science or like programming since they were 15. They probably started with 20 or 23 or even later, like with 30. My best friend started with 27. She's an amazing front-end developer and already tried out some like won some prizes at Web3 hackathons. And I think also to understand the value these people can add, because they are more interdisciplinary and they understand also other spaces better, and they have a lot of work experience that is like not will also equal out this like missing experience of like being in dev for 10 years with bringing a lot of other skills that will make it easier for them to move in the space. And I think seeing also the success in our projects and also how we manage to onboard devs and people and have successful projects shows how we are necessary, and how we will be like make it possible for blockchain to reach the mainstream, and how we like make it possible to create projects that are understandable also for people who don't know about blockchain but are interested in the concept and will just want to use like maybe an app that cares about your privacy, right? And I think also what I find very interesting in onboarding women or people from outside this space is I think for a long time, a lot of people only joined the space because they thought they could earn like a lot of money very quickly. But focusing more on DAOs and NFT projects and doing good, and like actually focusing on what blockchain as a technology means, how it can like really change this power structures, how it can help, how it can facilitate some infrastructure that wasn't possible before, and also like access to finance, to money and knowledge for people that didn't have that access before. And just in general, how it can be used to maybe equal out the power relations that exist right now. I think that actually makes them interested, because if I would just be like, hey, here, cryptocurrency, they would be like, I don't trust that. But like if I tell them like, hey, there's DAOs and they do great things and they do this through NFT projects, and also when you start explaining like why NFTs are not only like art but also carry a lot of utility, I think it's way easier to onboard people. And I think because we also like had to onboard ourselves through topics like that, it's easier to ask to onboard people from outside that don't really like, because, and then also try to explain them that blockchain is just a technology that is very useful and will be used a lot. Yeah, to your question, because it was a very long round trip, I think as women we are like raised by society, or in general, like culturally, to do a lot of care work, but also a lot of work that is not very like recognized when it comes to like making something work. If that means like a community, if that means to like make people feel welcome, to if that means to just like care about including everyone. I think, and this value we can bring, and it's exhausting, so we should also be paid for that because it's of course something that we got trained on by society, but it's also nothing that doesn't take energy off. But yeah, to answer your question, I think we are the interoperability layer for everything.
What are your thoughts on that, JP?
I love it. Yeah, women are definitely smarter than men. You look at any test, women are smarter than men. Yeah, they're outliers always, but as a whole, as a group, I think that it is an injustice that one of the most important activities a human could do is so underpaid, and that is to raise another human and to teach and to help a child, introduce that child to society, and there's no financial reward to that whatsoever. It's not valued, and this is a travesty. This is an injustice that our societies have let go, unanalyzed for hundreds of years, and it needs to change. Um, Outside of that, the community building that women so often do is often, when it comes time to give the praises, men will take the glory for all of the hard work that women will often do in, let's say, in the shadows or in the background, and that too is an injustice. Um, the ability for communities to organize in a distributed and decentralized manner gives us the ability to think of constructs of community in a new way that, if we'll push the boundaries, will create new forms of society. And I think we really need that. We are seeing that we're like really experiencing culture wars, and our society is changing at a faster pace than ever before. We need new tools to deal with these changes, and we need new paradigms, new ways of thinking about how the world operates. There are those who are fighting for older ways that are clearly not working anymore, and I think there are multiple ways that we can move forward, and we need to experiment and to see. And women need to be a forefront of that. It's 50% of our population at least, right? And so we're only as strong as our weakest link, and if we're putting down an entire sector of people based on ridiculous criteria that no one can change or control, then we're doing ourselves as a species a great disservice.
I actually have like a really cool, I think, I had a call with Metis, like with the research lab there, and they actually are working on like proving, like developing concepts of proving this kind of work, like care work. and housework and like all of this work that is normally not valued. And so because like we talked, I have like a startup called Proof of Meditation, and we were working on proving like that people take care of their mental health and also incentivizing them. So they were very interested in talking to us because it's also like something that normally people don't get paid for taking care of themselves actually.
Right.
So I thought, so it was really great talking to them and finding out that somebody, like some people are already working on these topics that are so important to change the existing state of what is valued as valuable.
Yeah, we need to rethink what value means, right? The definition of value.
Because that is still very pegged to male behavior or male.
Right, and that individuals are incentivized to work for the goals of others, and because there's very little like a extrinsic incentive to work on one's own goals, it's easy to push those to the side and just ignore them. And you can ignore them for an entire lifetime and spend a whole life just working for other people's goals.
Preach. Yeah. Lena, what would you say to someone who is interested in taking a leap into Web3? Like, where should they start? How would you motivate them to stay engaged or take that leap of faith in starting, whether it be like taking a course to learn more about blockchain or a developer journey, something of that sort, or even starting a startup?
I think joining a course is definitely super valuable because what I learned there, again, community, no, but the study groups I formed there helped me in these courses actually, because they motivated me to meet up every week, to do the homework, and also the connections I made there were super valuable later, and they're still like very good friends, and we started this journey together. And I think starting to meet people and connect with people will probably keep you more in the space than working on something alone and losing interest. And also really looking for spaces where you feel comfortable. I have a very good friend, she used to work in blockchain, and she actually stopped 3 years ago because it was not like it's now. Like there was no diversity at all. She was the only woman at conferences. It was, we all know the stories of like the only women being there were hostess, right? And because also the women that existed, like that were in the space, did not feel comfortable at all to attend these conferences, and also not safe. So, and this still happens at many conferences. I just don't experience it because I'm surrounded by my group of women. I'm in my bubble. But to find a space where you feel safe, where you feel like there's people that you can connect to, find people that you can connect to, and then also maybe join a DAO, because I think joining a DAO is very useful to understanding like what are actually the possibilities about of blockchain, like what is the difference between a DAO and a company or an NGO, right? And like why is that very useful? And also like to understand tokenomics, because that is such a huge part of like every application you will build, and like I think it's not the easiest part to understand. So yeah, joining a DAO, like, oh, I'm very, very, very sorry. And yeah, I mean, I think it reach. I cannot.
Some people can't take a hit. You know?
It's my mother. She always says I should
Mother's
not like decline her.
My mother cannot take hits either.
I'm very sorry. I need to text her, otherwise she will call again. Yeah, how to best get into the space. Yeah, I think in the beginning also to get a lot of knowledge, but also to go to conferences and talk to people, because I feel like I've been learning about blockchain for almost a year before I attended my first conference, and suddenly I am. She doesn't get the hint. She doesn't get the hint.
That's so funny.
But I learned so much. So attending a conference and then talking to different people, just what they do, what they work for, was incredible. Like I learned so much faster, and just like attending now 7 conferences, I think I learned so much more than I could have learned if I would have just attended an educational program. And also then, as I already said, like attending a hackathon, I think I bring in women that don't know anything about Web3 sometimes, but they are devs and they learn how to use their tools, and because they're in a group of people and some of them already know more, they can like also learn from each other. And so yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways, but I think the most important one is to find a group that makes you feel safe. This is why we're creating a lot of local chapters of her DAO, so people can also connect if they don't have the money to travel, because we don't get that many scholarships to bring everyone everywhere. And so right now we're just creating a lot of local chapters so people can self-organize, bring on board. After being onboarded with us, they can then onboard other people and like distribute that knowledge and give it further, and like what they learn. Because like I attended one Web3 hackathon, and after that I was already mentoring other people, and I think it goes super fast, and it's also so much fun to see like if you have an impact.
How can people find or start a HerDAO chapter?
They can get in contact with like join our Discord. We have community onboarding calls every 2 weeks, and I'm building this right now. So like because we only exist since like 6 months, and because we will also focus a lot on scholarships, we went that focus on finishing or like doing all the organizational operations perfectly. So right now we're building a template for creating a local chapter. I already started building some as like templates with scholars that we had. Like we're starting one in Spain, in Paris, and in Germany. We're also looking forward to build one in the UK, and maybe also Warsaw, and then we of course already have HerDAO Latam, and they are also having a hacker house in East Mexico that you might also hang out at or join. And we were also looking into like we're starting to create HerDAO Nigeria, and so it really like right now it's the scholars we had, because like this is kind of our proof of like validation, or like the people that we know that already have been our scholars that attended an onboarding call, and also where we already have been, and we already created like our community with Telegram and onboarding people, so that now they already went through a process that we already did. And yeah, I'm working on the boilerplate this week, and next week we're gonna have like our first, like in the next months, like they will then meet and set everything up. So I hope in September we have like our first few sub chapters in Europe. But yeah, just like join our Telegram channel actually, and just write like, hey, I'm in Spain, or I'm in Venezuela, or I'm in Mexico, or we're going to Korea in the beginning of August. We're gonna have a hacker house there. We are really looking forward to get to know the local developer community. So yeah, we are founding HerDAO Korea in Seoul, and yeah, we're very excited for that. So just like reach out. We might like our community is already like 1K 1,000 people in our Telegram channel, but we also have a lot of people in Instagram, and I don't know, way more in Twitter. I think a few thousand. So you can just like also post something and ask for people like her DAO members in that are close to you and connect with, and we will connect you with them, and also like offer you tools and our experience and our connections to start your own community.
Amazing.
Awesome. And Lena, where can people find you on like Twitter? What do you prefer? Where do you prefer to connect?
So as you can see, I put my name GigaHierz in here, and that is my name everywhere, on Telegram, on Twitter, and on Instagram. And feel free to write me on all the channels. I think most active I'm in Telegram and Instagram, and but I check Twitter every day almost. Yes.
Well, definitely check out GigaHierz and get connected with her DAO. It's a great organization. Thank you so much for being here with us. I really appreciate your time and the conversation.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much for working on Reach. I am so looking forward to be working with Reach more, because I'm a huge fan.
Awesome.
Thanks, Lena.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
All right. That was awesome, JP. I really enjoyed that conversation. What were
I
some?
love the takeaways. Get connected with the community and do it. Code.
Yeah.
Hop in.
Yeah, there you have it. So everyone, thank you so much for watching. As you know, we do encourage you to follow her DAO and GigaHierz, both on Twitter. You can rewind just a little bit and you'll see that there is a little ticker that showed both of their handles. So there you have it. And you can follow us on Twitter as well. You can find me as NFT Mommy on Twitter, and JP.
I'm the real JP Miller.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Also, make sure to leave a comment, subscribe if you have any questions or you want to hear more about a certain topic in a future podcast. Please feel free to let us know. We'll be happy to hear it.
Ciao.